Welcome to the Switchblade Sisters Social Club, a true crime podcast where two sisters exploit their worst fears for your entertainment. You're welcome. I'm Dee.
And I'm Randa, and together we are the Sake Sisters. For more information, check out our website at www.switchbladesistersocialclub.com or find us on Instagram and Facebook at Switchblade Sisters Social Club.
Thanks for listening.
All right. Hi, this is Deanna, and there's Randa.
Hi!
And we are Switchblade Sister Social Club, the true crime podcast where we exploit... I forgot what we do. The true crime podcast where two sisters exploit their worst fears for your entertainment. You're welcome. All right. Well, I wanted to tell you about a fun day out that I had with my friend Sarita Fontaine at Hey Sarita. Check her out. She's amazing. She's got a lifestyle platform called Women Who Rebrand. It's on www.rdigital.com.
I'm so sorry. I swear to God that I'm done fucking around
actual.
now. I know, I'm sorry.
All right. So anyways, we went to Top Drawer, which is unfortunately a word I struggle to say, like brewery, drawer.
I know, me too. Drawer, brewery. I can't say that either.
Oh,
people just don't understand what we're saying, brewery.
No, I know. You know, where they make beer. It's really hard when you're Belgian. So Top Drawer is like a retail fair for wholesalers and stuff. And I go there with several hats on. Because obviously I do writing for different brands and so forth, but also because I help organize some fairs for different charities. And so it's always good to be on the lookout for new upcoming brands, and they are absolutely amazing. And Sarita,
did you buy me something?
No, the shit thing is you can't buy anything there.
What? That's torture. Why would they let you come if you can't buy anything?
I literally grab everyone's details and
oh my
come
God!
home
So why can't you buy something? Why can't you buy?
Because they're for making links for retail, you know, for wholesale. So if you have a shop, for example, I've been with Tracy from Hair of the Moon before, where so you know she's looking for new products and stuff to stock in her shop, and I'm looking quite often for stall holders to come along to fairs and stuff like that. But you can't buy anything there. But you can grab all their details and do like all their details and do a massive shop on their websites when you get home. So that's fun. But I just wanted to point out some of the really super cool brands. Because I've got all the details to pass on to you as well. So,
okay, good.
But like for example, there was a lady whose name I don't remember, but her brand was called the Ink Bomb, and she made no, it's not called the Ink Bomb, the Tattoo Bomb. And I'll post all the links in the chat box, right? But she was phenomenal. It was like a special moisturizer that was kind of like you know, not a roll-on deodorant, but like a pop-up deodorant, you know what I mean? So in that kind of format, but for specifically moisturizer for your tattoos. And I know, and I was like, oh my God, try on one of mine, because if you've got tattoos, especially the ones on my legs,
mine are wrinkly, old, like old leather handbag,
ashy,
like
you know?
me.
Like one of my tattoos that I love the most is of our grandmother on my thigh. It's quite a big one. It was like 3 8-hour-long sessions. It's a proper portrait of her on her wedding day. She looks
it's nice. Do you know what I'm so annoyed about? Pretty much all of my tattoos are from the pre-Pinterest days, and I am so jealous about anyone who got tattoos after Pinterest came out and actually showed the world what nice tattoos are, because I swear mine are literally the ugliest. Tribal 90s throwbacks. I just went in there underage, pointed at whatever was on the wall, and I said, I want that. You know what? I don't even know. Some of them I can't even see. And I think like I have 3 or 4 roses on my back. I don't know, because I haven't really looked at it ever, because I can't.
Yeah. Well,
thank God.
I've got loads that I'm proud of, but then when I try to show them off, especially like, you know, dry winter skin, they're like I said, ashy and dusty and embarrassing. It's like, just ignore the skin flakes. You can kind of see the tattoo under that. Anyways, I I showed her I've got on my ankles Mario, and on the other ankle,
Yeah.
not Luigi, what everyone thinks, because Luigi's a little bitch, but Mario's true best friend, Yoshi. And they're on the inside of my ankles, and I really like when I'm walking, it looks like they're running together. But again, always dry and flaky or whatever. And
we should do an episode on like our worst tattoos and the story behind them.
Maybe we'll do that. We'll do that for the chit chat next episode.
Do you know what? My worst tattoo is a cover up of a cover up. So it was one thing, then it became another, and then it became another, and every time it has to get bigger and bigger.
I think if you've got tattoos, then you definitely have some tattoos that you're a little bit less proud of. And you tell yourself, oh, but they still mean something because
or it's a story. I mean,
none
of mine mean a damn thing.
It's an experience, the frame of mind you were in when you got it, you were celebrating something, you were proud of something, whatever. Usually there's something like that. But yeah, so I got out my ankle, and she rubbed this balm on, and it was literally like someone was coloring it in.
Wow.
So it's like pixelated tattoo of Mario, sort of like old Mario, like when you got color Game Boy, right? I can't remember what the name is, like 8-bit or whatever. And so it's reds and greens and blues and whatever. And the colors are just normally so dull, and it just literally, it sounds cheesy, but it made it pop. So yeah, I have ordered one of those, obviously. Again, I'll put her link in the show notes. She was a lovely Scottish lady. She's absolutely adorable. It was all like natural products. It was like apricot oil, cocoa butter, and shea butter, and vegan, and, you know, just tick, 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 right? And the packaging is super cool because she's got different styles of tattoos on the, you know, whether you like the more traditional or the roses or the, you know, Japanese style. So it was just such a cool brand. Like, and I was so happy. And fairly reasonably priced as well, especially considering it was all natural and blah, blah, blah. So that was one that I absolutely loved. I know we've got a lot of tattoo follows out there, so do check her out.
What's the business name?
Okay, I'm going to search quickly because I want to say it's...
We'll put it in the show notes too.
Oh, yeah. The Tattoo Bomb? The Ink Bomb.
Oh,
Tattoo
you did say.
Aftercare. The Ink Bomb, sorry. So it's at the Ink Bomb. There was another super cool one. I don't know where I stand in terms of like taxidermy and bones and stuff like that. Like,
yeah, do you know, I don't know where I stand on it. I mean, I find it a little gross, but I know there's like some people have ethical concerns about it. I don't really understand that though. Right?
No, so well, if it's obviously I'm vegetarian, so I don't like the idea of something being killed.
Okay, do they kill animals for taxidermy?
No, well, it depends. It depends. Obviously, some people go hunting and have their items, their wins.
Because I've come across like ethical taxidermists who have literally found animals on the side of the road. I mean, I wouldn't want those in my house.
Well, that's the other thing. I don't have a moral dilemma with the ethical taxidermy and skulls and this, that, and the other. I still would feel weird having it in my own house. The only thing I have similar is, you know, when I had Marcel the Shell, the giant African land snail, may he rest in peace, the vet very kindly tidied up his shell and gave him back to me, but I haven't even looked at it yet because he passed fairly recently and I'm still grieving, and one day I'll open it up and I'm sure it'll look super cool. But there was a woman called Skull Noir there. Her business was called Skull Noir, and she just had, and it was ethical, so no problem there in my mind, but her stuff was so freaking cool. She had like skulls, she had jewelry, she was so awesome. Again, I'll put her links in the show notes. Do
you know, the other thing is, I just kind of think people are so much more socially responsible now that we kind of just expect that things are going to be vegan, not tested on animals, like, paraben free.
Even if you're not vegan, I think a lot of people are like, well, I'm not vegan, I'll eat a steak, but I don't really need my makeup to be tested on animals.
Well, that's it, exactly, yeah. I'm a meat eater, but if something says vegan, organic, I mean, I know organic is more for us, whereas vegan is more...
Well, no, because organic is also obviously much better for the environment.
Yeah, so true. But I mean, I kind of think everything is heading that way, and it should be if it isn't, you know?
Yeah, if it doesn't need to inflict pain or suffering on another living thing, then why would you do that? Another brand that I absolutely loved, Esoteric London. Oh my God, check
They sound
out this
familiar.
brand. I've seen the jewelry around, so it's mainly jewelry. So fucking cool. Lots of stuff cut out of like kind of acetate plastics, lots of woods, really funky. And I love they had a range of rainbow jewelry, right? But they had like normal rainbows and that kind of style. But then they had like black rainbows, black and grays.
Oh,
Which
yeah.
for me, it's like I love that because, you know, I love a good rainbow, but sometimes I'm feeling a bit more gothy. So it's like goth rainbow, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, and then there was another one which was fucking awesome. Horror soaps. So different is sort of gorgeous vegan handmade soaps, but for each star sign, you know. So like, for example, the Aries one, Aries being me, being quite intense and constantly working and always on it and blah blah blah, and the soap on it was said Aries and underneath relax. And then Scorpio, which is known to obviously have a little sting in the tail and can be a bit emotional, it said fuck off. So I loved it. Then there was another one, and I don't know. It was called Candlemelion, and it said heat activated candles, and I was like, guys, aren't all candles heat activated? In that you need fire to light them? And they were like, yeah, but these were in these gorgeous like pots, and when the candles were lit and they heated up, do you remember like those hyper something T-shirts in the 90s? You know, they change color and pattern when they lit up. So they had one that was like called snake oil, and when you lit it up, a snake pattern came out and stuff.
Ooh,
so I offered my snake because, as you know, I have a snake, and yeah, it was like, if you ever need a snake for any photo shoots, then Bumblebee is around. You know?
Is he compliant though?
He's so lovely. I just don't know how anyone could not love him, and he's born to be famous. He's just so fabulous. So yeah. And then the last one I'll mention, there were so many, I could talk about them forever, was Cream Creme Cocoa. And it was an amazing brand. I want to say it was like more aimed at people of color, but I don't think that's exclusive to that. But it was again like cocoa butter, shea butter, moisturizers, and she gave out these samples, so you do get like freebies when you go there. But her sample pot, bless her, I need to tell her, if you're listening, lady, you are amazing and your product is fabulous, but don't give out fucking massive free samples. I was very grateful. So moisturizer, but imagine this, right? You know, ylang ylang.
It smells nice and floral.
Yeah, and like hers doesn't have vanilla in it, but those are two scents that when people use like artificial scents for it,
it's nauseating. Yeah,
it smells like cheap toilet air freshener, right?
Yeah.
Because she uses like an amazing amount of like proper essential oils and natural products and so forth. I've got the moisturizer on now. Like, you put a little bit on your hands. I put it on my elbows where I get dry. It's winter, blah, blah. And like I can smell it all day.
Oh, I love that.
So it's like moisturizer that's pretty much like a perfume and lasts forever.
I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah, so good. I'll bring my pot when we have our sleepover this Saturday.
Yes.
So you can try it. But it's so rich. It's so luxuriant when you put it on.
Yeah, I want to try.
Like, you put it on your hands, it doesn't leave any kind of weird residue on your hands, and it just smells fucking divine. So yeah, do check her out. Her products were amazing. She had one that I'm definitely going to buy that was nutmeg scented. And I tried that one at the actual fair, and it just smelled so cozy and warm. It felt like
nutmeg like reminds you of like Christmas.
Yeah, but it wasn't overly, so you could wear it other months and not feel like you're wearing like mulled wine flavored moisturizer. But it was just that cozy, like autumnal feel.
Yeah.
You know,
like that. I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah, so that one was amazing as well. So those were some of my highlights. There were so many, to be honest. There was people are fucking fantastic and creative, and I'm just so super impressed, to be honest.
Do you know what? I love buying from small businesses because, like, me and you are small business owners. We're freelancers. Well, I was going to say we don't sell products, but we have amazing merch. Actually, as you can see, our cushion, our hoodie.
I'm repping with Yeah, exactly. Oh my
We
God,
got
our
bum
phone.
bags.
I don't know if I've ever shown. Have I shown our ring grip
We
on
did,
the?
but let's do it again.
Yeah, here's the ring grip. It's so cool. Sorry, I'm not making it. And obviously it's backwards because I have to have mirror zoom so that if I need to fix my hair, I don't have to do it, on the diagonal. But yeah, it's so cool because you can put your finger through. It swivels around, so it works as a
and it's not flimsy.
No, it's fucking solid. So super
So
cool.
check out our merch. It's on our website, but we'll stick it in the show notes too. But do you know what? Like, I love if I can buy from a small business owner over a big corporation or business, I always will.
Yeah.
And like the customer service is just so nice. Like I love getting a little handwritten note, when you buy from a small business owner.
Such better vibes. Those people are doing a little happy dance when your order comes in.
Mm.
I mean, the one thing I will say that's disheartening, like I said, I do a lot of charity fairs and I try to get, local or ethical brands. If they're not local, they're working with cooperatives in Peru or whatever, like interesting independent designer makers, small businesses, people doing just fucking awesome things, right?
And yeah.
But the sad thing is, what I would really love, my little plea out there for consumers and customers, just bear in mind, if you want a product that is high quality and made with the best ingredients and made with love and care and something special, it will cost more.
Yeah,
just deal with it.
True.
But you are, you're making a difference in someone's life. You're getting something that you actually genuinely will love, that's not been just mass produced and shipped over.
And full of carcinogenics. Like, I'm so afraid of parabens and all the bad shit in beauty products,
Mm-hmm.
And do you know what? Like, my favorite thing at the moment, which I recently discovered through a lady who's actually another parent at the kid's school. And she's a fucking hard worker. She's an accountant. Plus, she runs her own business, selling sea moss. So I don't know if you've become aware of sea moss, but it's sort of recently, I think, become a bigger thing, or people are more aware of it. And it's literally like some sort of algae. It's literally fucking sea moss, And she gets hers from St. Lucia. And her business is Chanel's_sea moss on Instagram. Chanel's with an S. And I'll put the link in the show notes. And I've been buying sea moss from her. She has subscription services as well, which is amazing because it means it just gets sent to you and you don't have to think about it. And by the way, we are not affiliated with any of these brands. We're literally just telling you because we like it. And so I'm always looking for shit to make me feel better because I have not had a full night's sleep since the twins were born. They both have sleep issues, which means I have a sleep issue. And I'm tired all the time. I don't eat properly. I don't exercise. I basically should do all those things, but I don't. So I throw money at solutions and supplements and whatever. And I've taken every kind of supplement for energy, drink natural energy drinks, all that sort of shit. But anyway, sea moss, apparently it has 96 of your 102 minerals that your body naturally contains, but it's like fucking amazing for everything, like lowering cholesterol, great for if you've got IBS, great for what else, thyroid, weight loss. Like, it's just a really good
thyroid. Our mom always thinks we have thyroid problems, doesn't she? Whenever anything happens, is it your thyroid? Are you drinking enough water?
But you know what, I've been taking it, and like, you can put it in your smoothies or in your food. I'm actually literally eating it pure out the jar because it kind of, imagine something that has the texture of hair gel, but it's kind of tasteless. But I just feel like I'm really healthy whenever I have it. So yeah, I've just, you can also use it as a hair mask and a face mask, which I haven't done yet. Yeah. Hair amazing. And face mask. Yeah. So anyway, sea moss, that's my new thing. I'll keep you updated.
All right, keep us posted on the sea moss updates we want.
Yeah, but definitely check out Chanel's_sea moss because I mean, amazing business. And she just makes great sea moss. I've tried a few and hers tastes good. Like, I can eat it pure, Anyway, check it out. That's my new thing.
Right. So that's our little chit chat. We love small brands. We love small businesses. If you do want us to advertise you, then,
let us know.
But nothing that we have just said has been as a result of any kind of payment. Although, full disclosure, I do fucking love my free sample from Cream Creme.
Do you know what? Actually, speaking of which, I was sent a free sample by a lady who does run a business creating like visual resources for special needs kids and autistic kids.
Oh, is this the thing we were playing with the other day?
Yeah. So Dee came over for a sleepover at ours last week, and she's coming again this weekend. And so I sent a sample of, this is totally nothing to do with fucking murder, but this is just about our lives between podcasts.
Deal with it. We like to chat.
So because the twins are autistic, she sent me a sample to test out. And it's visual timetables. If anyone knows anything about like autistic kids, they really like to be prepared in advance of what's happening next and what they're doing. Anyway, the business is called Tom Tags, and the Instagram name is Orchid Ideas, Orchid with a K, not a CH. But yeah, fucking love it. I like, honestly, do you know what? I'm a social media manager. I am by no means an influencer. I, don't do user-generated content, any of that sort of stuff. But if I love a brand, I will fucking talk about it and shout about it because, as I said, we're small business owners and word of mouth is crucial and important, and it does help us all out. And if you like something, do you know what? If I like something, I tell people about it all the fucking time. I know you do too.
We can't stop talking about it. Hey, let's do a thread when this podcast comes out. Let's do a post on where people can tell us about their favorite small businesses and independent brands and whatnot.
Yeah, good idea.
Let's be honest, we're always looking for something extra to buy.
Oh God, yeah. Well, that's it. We also love to fucking buy shit. So, so yeah. But when we say we like something, it's from the heart.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So, and I will say we always promise not to advertise anything we do not, even if they are paying us, that we don't love, in addition to them helping us pay our mortgage.
Yeah. Which has tripled because of the catastrophe in this country.
We don't even have time for cost of living, but fucking hell. All right. So, yay. I love when you're doing an episode because I just get to sit back and relax.
I know, story time.
Story time.
That's what I look forward to too when you tell me, when you present your topic. So I have worked really hard to make sure that every episode is a different sort of theme, that it's not just standard murder after standard murder. Okay, not that there's a standard murder, but I've tried to mix it up. I've even got on one episode where there's no murder, just grievous bodily harm, because that's what we're here for.
Yes.
So I've made sure every episode, because I plan ahead, so every episode is a different type of murder or, a different type of theme. So when we were doing We Knew the Moon, we did a lot of sort of ghostly...
Just saying, We Knew the Moon being my previous podcast, where I covered a lot of spiritual, witchy woo-woo, spooky things, which eventually developed into this podcast. But my sister, you were guest host on quite a few episodes, and they got dark.
It did. So, where was I going with what I just said?
We did a few episodes on We Knew the Moon. You were saying we...
Oh, yeah. Okay, so we had more sort of like spooky stuff on We Knew the Moon. Now we are focusing exclusively on murder, solving crimes.
True crimes, yes.
With our criminology degrees that we don't have.
Oh my God, can I just say,
let me fucking tell you what, if we don't get an honorary doctorate after this first fucking season, Dee, especially for your investigative journalism, I don't know what more we need to do.
But can I just say what I did get, because I registered for a true crime event and they said they were going to post something. Do you know what they've sent?
What?
A fingerprinting set.
Oh!
I'll bring it on Saturday.
I tell you who we should have up on this show is Jim's niece actually studied forensics at university.
Amy.
And I proofread her dissertation, which was on fingerprints, something to do with siblings and fingerprints.
Oh,
let's get her on. Let's get her on.
Amy,
be a guest. So basically, today I'm doing a little bit of a homage to We Knew the Moon, and I'm going down the spooky route to mix it up. Of course, there's murder up in there, of course, because we got to give the people what they want. I know what we're here for. I know the assignment. And I do my homework.
You do.
So
never let it be said you don't do your homework.
I do my fucking homework. And I'll tell you what else. Some of my sources, because we like to cite our sources, is House Beautiful magazine.
Okay.
They have a podcast, okay? And the podcast is all about creepy houses.
Fuck off. They have a podcast solely on that.
Yes, they do. And it's called something else, but it's House Beautiful something or other. I don't know. Can't remember the exact names. I'm bad at citing my sources, but it's literally House Beautiful magazine, and they've got some sort of offshoot podcast about creepy houses. Very fucking interesting.
Amazing.
And do you know what else?
Cheap Old Houses is one of the best Instagram accounts.
Oh, the best Instagram account, Cheap Old Houses. Oh my God. Like every time I've got a fascination with it, because I do have a fascination with creepy old houses, but not English ones, interestingly. And I was thinking about this last night. I don't have a fascination with creepy old English house as much, because I think as we've like pretty much lived here our whole lives.
To it. Yeah.
Yeah, like old Victorian houses. Have you been in anything older than that? Oh, actually, without saying the name, because that would be stupid and unsafe, the kids go to school in the most beautiful school, which literally looks like a fairy tale cottage barn type thing. It's a listed building. It must be from Tudor times. It's apparently haunted. I keep asking the staff about it, and there's some freaky stories about that building. But anyway, so yeah, that's like all the doors are like arch gothic, not gothic, but big arch wooden doors with like cast iron handles and like beams. Just imagine beams, cast iron handles, arch doors.
I tell you what I do love here in this country, though, a good castle.
Yeah, I haven't been to many in this country, weirdly. I actually haven't in this country, but like, you know, like creepy old Victorian houses are kind of standard for us here. Whereas I'm fascinated by creepy old American houses. Like their Victorian architecture is so fucking different to ours. Yeah. Victorian architecture, I say ours, we're not from here, but we live here. Victorian architecture here is like those rose crown things on the ceiling, fireplaces, dado rails, picture
painted
rails.
Tiles.
Yeah, that's Victorian architecture here. It's not really creepy. Victorian architecture in the States is like pointed turrets and
like
creepy
houses
shit
made to look like castles and like widows' walks.
Do you know what? It looks like this American Victorian architecture looks like creepy Disney architecture, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And exactly. So I'm fascinated by like.
And also when you're watching the Cheap Old Houses account, when you're scrolling through it, they're also so fucking cheap that you just think like...
Yeah, I mean, look, that's where a lot of the murder houses end up. So that's why we came to follow it. The murder houses are literally up on that Instagram account, and that's why a lot of them are so cheap.
And also, we're comparing it to London prices, which are obviously just astronomical.
Would you buy a murder house if it was absolutely beautiful, but bad shit happened? I wouldn't. No way. Bad shit happened in there.
Talked about this with... you know, when
I never would. Why would you?
When I did we did an episode on creepy hotels, you and and then I did an episode on creepy houses with Sarita, and we talked about this, and we were like, nope.
No, because bad stuff happened. The energy's still there, whether or not you believe
I could get over an old person dying of natural causes in a building.
Yes, because that's almost inevitable, right? I don't even ask that question about who lived in my house before. I know who lived directly before, but I don't ever ask the history, because you just know that it's likely that has happened, right?
Exactly. You get to a house of a certain age and probably someone's fucking died in it. I know no one's died in my house because I know everyone that's lived in it.
Yeah, I don't think anyone has in mine because it's a 70s house.
Yeah. And so I mean, the house that we grew up in Chiswick, 100% someone died in it. It was a really old house. There's no way that someone could not have. But a murder, I could not, because like in that creepy houses episode, there was even like the furniture that had been left, and there was a case where someone, I can't remember if it was in the Amityville horror house, where someone bought the house where a whole family got massacred. And they kept everything, including the beds that people had been murdered in, and they were still using them. No, God.
Okay, those people are murder fetishists, honestly. So,
well, it turns out they kind of were, because they made up this hoax that became the Amityville horror hoax.
Well, I'm going to tell you, this episode is going to tell you exactly fucking for why you should not buy a murder house.
All right, if you need more reasons not to buy a murder house.
Okay, so, shall I begin?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I've got 2 stories for you today.
How funny. I've got 2 stories in my next episode for you.
Good. Mm-hmm. So, the first story is the Villisca Axe Murder House in Villisca, Iowa. So,
Ooh, we haven't had something in Iowa yet, have we?
But there's two very different murder houses. I like a bit of contrast. So the first one is a farmhouse. You know, one of those colonial houses. Mm-hmm. American Colonial, is that what it's called?
Oh,
colonial.
Yeah. That's literally like the Amityville Horror House.
Yeah, exactly that. And that style also freaks me out. So American Victorian and American Colonial style freaks me out.
I think it's because... Yeah, we associate it with haunted houses.
Yeah, and also I think it's because like all the American horror films, if people got murdered in houses, always in those kind of houses, you know?
Yeah, I literally think Amityville Horror every single time.
Yeah, so they're cute, and the thing is, the architecture's cute, but I'm never gonna see it and not think murder. Anyway, so this house, the first house, is a farmhouse in a tight-knit community in the town of Villisca. It was considered to be a wholesome community. It's Iowa, isn't that somewhere in like in the middle where there's cornfields? I don't know. So, is it? Or did I just offend a lot of people? Okay. So, the Villisca Axe murders occurred between the evening of June the 9th, 1912, and the early morning of June the 10th, 1912. 6 members of the Moore family and 2 of their guests were found bludgeoned in the Moore's house. Yeah. So all 8 victims, 8 people, including 6 children. Really fucking sad. I normally stay away from anything to do with kids, but they make a reappearance. This is not so sad. So normally I stay away from anything to do with kids, but unfortunately they're part of the story, so I'm going to tell you the story. So all 8 victims had severe head wounds from an axe. A lengthy investigation produced several suspects, one of whom was tried twice. The first trial ended in a hung jury, and the second ended in an acquittal, but the crime remains unsolved. Let me just look at myself. Sorry, I put... fix up my nose.
Why?
Because when I get migraines, I've got migraines. Anyway, okay. Sorry, Patreons. I'll try to be sexy, but sometimes that happens. Okay, so in 1903, the Moore family bought the home. The parents were Josiah B. Moore, who was 43, and he was married to Sarah Montgomery, who was 39. They had 4 kids, 3 boys and 1 girl. So Josiah was well liked and wealthy, and he owned part of the John Deere company, you know, like the tractor.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sarah was active in the church. So their kids' names were Herman Montgomery, Mary Catherine, Arthur Boyd, and Paul Vernon. I know, such typical names.
Herman Montgomery.
I know. I mean, of all the names you could have picked, I don't know. I mean, maybe it was like fashionable then. Their kids' name, told you that. So on June 9th, 1912, Mary Catherine Moore invited Ina May and Lena Gertrude Stillinger, they were 8 and 12, to spend the night at the Moore residence. So they were family friends. They were supposed to stay at their grandmother's house that night, who lived locally, but instead they stayed at hers. So that evening, the visiting girls in the Moore family attended the Presbyterian church, where they participated in the Children's Day program. This makes it more sad, which Sarah had coordinated. After the program ended at 9:30 p.m., the Moores and the Stillinger sisters walked to the Moore's house, arriving between 9:45 and 10. They get home at 9:45, or between 9:45 and 10, and at some point when they were asleep, everyone was massacred. So it makes me feel a little bit better. They were asleep, most of them.
Yeah, but at some point, they might have woken up. Like
I know. That yeah. I'm trying to skirt over the horrible bits of child murder. But their neighbor was alarmed when they were not up between 7 and 8 a.m. the next day. So it's a tight-knit community.
My neighbors would not be alarmed if I was not up by 7 a.m.
I swear, if my neighbors even knew what time I got up, they know too much about me. Yeah. So the neighbor goes and tends to the chickens and the horses.
All right. And that makes it less creepy, I suppose.
Yeah. So they see the doors are locked, and they go to call Joe's brother. Don't know how they call Joe's brothers, because they don't have phones.
Do they in that time? No.
I don't know. Maybe they just go to get Joe's brother.
Maybe they literally mean Joe's brother.
So Joe's brother comes and opens the door, but it was locked from the inside. There's some real fucking weird shit in this story. This is why I was never saw. It was locked from the inside. Yeah. There's some more weird facts. So it was deemed that someone was in the Moore house waiting for them when they came home from church, because there was no break-in. Joe's brother goes into a room and sees an arm poking out of a bedsheet.
Oh.
I know, I feel like we need to have like a soundtrack of creepy, dissonant music in the background when they tell this story.
Paul.
Make it happen for us, please. Make it happen.
Podcast producer Paul.
So nice to say that we have a podcast producer.
Yeah, love you, Paul.
They called the town marshal, but they did not secure the crime scene where they were investigating. So based on the evidence they found in the attic, which you can only go in through a hidden door. So to go into the attic, someone would have needed to know where that hidden door was. They thought someone in the know or someone in the inner circle did it. The door was hidden in a closet on the top floor. So proper, like, secret door. They find 2 cigarette butts on the floor of the attic. So those cigarette butts, that could have just been Joe sneaking a cheeky cigarette,
any of the kids.
Yeah, behind his wife's back, but who knows? So it was uncertain whether those cigarettes belonged to the killer. They didn't have DNA testing back then, or whether this was just Joe having a cheeky cigarette. So the axe was found on the bottom floor, the ground floor. They think the killer started in the parents' room using an axe that actually belonged to Joe. So the murder weapon belonged to Joe. It was an axe.
So this person basically turned up without a murder weapon, which is always weird to me.
What were they planning to do?
But we had this in the New Orleans episode on We Knew the Moon as well, with the axe murder of New Orleans. He used he used the people's own axes, but obviously this is in a time where people are more likely to have an axe.
Yeah, that's it. So anyone that knew Joe knew he probably would have had an axe. They lived on a farm. So Joe was found face down, hit by the blade of the axe, and the only one to be killed that way. He was hit by the blade of the axe. Then the murderer went into the kids' rooms. I'm not going to go into detail because it's unnecessary. Nobody wants to hear that. So they think he went back to the parents' room after murdering the kids to cause more damage. So there were axe marks on the ceiling. So they think it was done in anger. There were a lot of signs here that it was a person that knew the family because he was in the house waiting for them, used Joe's murder weapon, so he knew where that was kept, and went back to further brutalize the parents after already killing them and the kids.
I guess you could say he had an axe to grind.
I
hate myself for saying that.
If this isn't in bad taste already.
I'm not even going to tell Paul to cut that out because people need to learn from my mistake just there.
So it was deemed to be someone with a vengeance who knew the home and the family. Remember, this is a tight-knit community, small, little, tight-knit rural community. So the doctor asked whether the house smelled like chloroform, but it didn't, because they thought maybe he chloroformed the family before, killing him.
Yeah.
But it was a completely botched investigation. And like we've seen in recent history with Elisa Lam in the Cecil Hotel, Jesus.
And I think especially pre-DNA times, crime scenes were not really crime scenes. The neighbors would be coming and going to see what was happening and blah, 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 huh?
Yeah. So apparently then the killer went downstairs. So murdered the parents, killed the kids, went back to brutalize the parents, then went downstairs. And this is where it gets even worse. And the only one who had defensive wounds was the older sister, the guest. Do you remember the 2 girls that were guests? The older sister, who was also sexually assaulted. Oh. And I just think that makes the whole story so much worse because the others, I felt better knowing they'd been killed in their sleep, didn't see it coming. She had defensive wounds and she'd been sexually assaulted. So that is just a whole nother level of...
And if she had defensive wounds, she would have known or heard or had some inclination of what had happened to the others.
Yeah. So that's really the horrendous bit of this story. Not that there's any good bits. Sorry. The killer, interestingly, then covered all the windows with linens and covered all the people with bed sheets.
Weird.
So he also covered the mirrors. So that was interesting because did he do that out of shame? Didn't want to look at himself. So covering the windows, fair enough. You don't want people to see. Covering the bodies, I don't know. Maybe the same reason.
It does seem like an element of remorse or shame.
So covering the mirrors was interesting. No crime scene photos were taken, but this was also the same year that the Titanic sank. And this story actually overtook the Titanic in the media. Yeah, so this story was big news. And considering the Titanic was such a momentous historic, God, is that even the right word, event in history, this story, kind of overshadowed it in the media. So the media and the police started looking at who was new in town. The house was locked from the inside, which was interesting, like I said. The brother even became a suspect, and maybe that's why the animals didn't freak out when they saw him, because he was familiar. Because normally the animals they had on the farm would have, you know, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how like farm animals react, but if they're like dogs and a stranger comes in the house, they're going to be noisy. But, you know, it was said that potentially could be someone they knew because the animals didn't freak out. None of the investigators suspected the brother, though, and Joe did have a lot of siblings. Sarah, the wife, had the least amount of damage to her head, interestingly. So that also made people think, you know, one of the theories was that, did she have an affair? Was it somebody that she was having an affair with? It's just a theory. That didn't want to necessarily harm her as much, you know, as he did Joe, who was the only one hit by the axe blade. A few people made fake confessions, but it was proven that it wasn't any of the people that made fake confessions. Who the fuck does
fake
that?
confessions, a fucking nightmare.
Yeah. So Joe's ex-boss and business rival was the suspect, but many people were, and they all turned out to be innocent. So I want to know who the fuck covered the mirrors and was hiding in the attic. Like, that's creepy to me.
Wait, and do you know how the murderer got out? Because if the door was locked from the inside, did he climb out a window?
No,
or something?
that was another mystery. Fucking mystery, because there was no one left alive in that house, right? So after all this happened, it took 2 years for another family to move in, and they knew
that doesn't even seem very long to me.
Yeah, they knew the house's history.
Yeah.
So the next family to move in were the Geesmans, who were a family of 5. The dad
Geesmans is a cute name.
I know, it's cute. So the dad moved into the barn after only one night of staying in the house. Yeah. So years later, his granddaughter and her family and the husband stopped sleeping there. So it was a history. So sorry, no, scratch that. Years later, his granddaughter and her family, years later, were living there, and the husband stopped sleeping there. So there was a history of men not wanting to sleep in this house. Yeah. Interesting, right? Mm-hmm. Don't know what that tells us about the ghostly behaviors. So renters lived there who said they reported footsteps and seeing a man with an axe and hearing little kids weeping and finding their clothes all over the place. So they reported sort of ghostly activity.
Is there any chance that any of the victims
was the killer?
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. Did somehow Joe do this to himself?
Could he have killed the others and then like hit himself strong enough with an axe?
I mean, this to me seems like a possible answer to the story, because I mean, sadly, whenever you hear about family obliterations, what's the actual term for it? Annihilations, yeah. It's the dad, right? Usually?
Yeah. I mean, did he have any... You didn't mention any kind of, like, normally it will be something because of financial issues.
But then the sexual assault of the kid, that's weird. It wasn't his kid, though, interestingly.
Yeah, it's weird if you're going to do a family annihilation to do it on a day that I mean, the whole thing is weird, obviously, but on a day where you've got guests. Yeah.
And then the sexual assault, okay, it wasn't one of his kids. But then also, and he was murdered in a different way to the rest of the family. I had those weird thoughts in my head. Could somebody bludgeon their head could bludgeon your own head with an axe? Yeah. But then they went back. I don't know.
Well, how do they know what order those things happened in?
I know. It did spring to mind as a...
Because they might have assumed, you know, especially in that day and age, that the dad must have been murdered first, because otherwise he wouldn't have let the other murders happen, you know?
But when there are family annihilations, do they do it with an axe? Like, wouldn't you try to think of the most humane way, which to me wouldn't be with an axe?
I don't know.
But is a gunshot too noisy? I don't know. This is where a criminology degree would be useful.
Yeah. Well, it's the same with the DeFeo family that got murdered in the Amityville house. It was a mother and father and several of the kids. And there was also all this weirdness around, like, even with the sort of silencer, which I don't think that there was. How do you shoot that many people individually and the others not wake up, or, you know? Because they were all shot in their beds. Yeah. So they were also checking to see if they had been drugged. And they hadn't found any evidence of that. So very, very weird.
So the current owners are Darwin and Martha Lynn, who bought the house in the 90s, and they wanted to turn it into a museum. So they were also obviously aware of the history of the house, and that's what interested them about it. So when they first opened it, they wanted to honor the family rather than for dark tourism purposes. Who knows? It's a weird reason to invest in property. Of all the reasons to invest in property, I want to honor that dead family. It's weird. This is not like, a small purchase,
Yeah, I mean, I get it in that I feel like it's a very similar reason why we do this podcast, because this kind of stuff fascinates us and we like talking about it and raising awareness about the different issues. But yeah, it's just like it's a big
investment for that reason, So Martha's mother, the new owners, she apparently knew the Moores. And the two new owners were local farmers. So when someone spoke to the husband about
so they're local?
Yeah, they were locals. Yeah.
They knew kind of makes more sense.
Yeah, the mother of the wife who bought the house knew the family. So when someone asked the husband, Darwin, about a paranormal investigation, Darwin had no idea what that even meant. So they weren't into dark tourism. They weren't into paranormal stuff. He really, when he was approached about a paranormal investigation, he didn't even know what that was. So they were respectful and even naive about dark tourism. But they did start to give tours of the house, because obviously this was this house had a history, it was well known. And that happened naturally out of people's curiosity. So one day a lady brings her young daughter in, and the daughter asks, "Can I go into the dark room?" And Darwin noticed a lot of little kids wanting to go into the room where the two sisters who were guests were sleeping. And the kids kept saying, "Stop pushing me," and would play peekaboo and look under the beds and the covers.
Oh, no.
I know, that's creepy, right? But I know, but that's
can I just say, one of the creepiest sounds in the world is like a child singing on his own.
I know, yeah. Yeah, I know, especially when there's an echo. And it's in the distance. Yeah. But that's also the good bit of the story, that the little kids were haunting.
Well, they're still having fun and playing. Yeah, that's
so
cute.
Apparently there's a train that passes by at 2 a.m. nearby, and people say that it stirs up spooky events, repeating the events of the night. So Martha says that she does believe the house is haunted, but she can't really explain it. Things like tugging on her shirt, objects moving, and tourists would even leave toys for the deceased kids to play with, which is nice.
Cute.
Martha and Darwin refurbished the house to its exact original state as a tribute. So this house was like preserved. Freaky a little bit sometimes when you see houses that are like 1950s or even older houses that are like refurbished.
Well, I find that less creepy than the houses that I covered in the Creepy Houses episode, where it was literally the same furniture.
Yeah. So Martha also said she experienced energy that wasn't peaceful energy. Obviously that's going to be the case in a murder house. You can still tour the house and even stay overnight, but the website is so outdated that the website alone freaks me out, because
we need to put a link in the show notes.
We do, and we're gonna, because the website is like a website from the 90s or something. That's when they bought the house. But
like like a word cloud. And
what's a word cloud?
You remember word clouds, where like the words that featured most often on your website were like bigger than the
no, I don't remember that, but it's just so old and it's almost barely usable. So, which is interesting, because I would have thought a house that's this famous would have had some.
Should I offer my website making services?
I mean, they need it, because it's probably one of the worst websites I've come across just in terms of usability. And it looks like Martha and Darwin made the website themselves. So yes, I would contact them. Yeah, this murder house secured its place in American history because it's unsolved and just so creepy. Anything that involves kids is sad and creepy, but also, I mean, we're never going to know, because this was before DNA testing and the crime scene was tampered with, but there's some weird things.
Oh, if they just preserved the cigarette butts, that would have been quite interesting. And also, I still think it might have been the dad.
I know if you could bludgeon yourself with an axe,
if that's possible. And it's not really something I'm going to try to Google, but do we have any evidence? Because like I know when family annihilations happen, there's usually a trigger. Financial affairs, some kind of addiction, gambling, alcoholism.
No, didn't come across anything like that. Didn't. So I know that would have helped to answer it. Because locked from the inside, covering the mirrors. But I don't know, the sexual assault of the other kid. The
shame of covering. I know the sexual assault is awful.
No, but I just don't know that ties in with that family annihilation theory.
I don't know, because I don't remember any cases where a family annihilation has happened with extra guests. So it doesn't surprise me that they might be treated slightly different. Maybe it's...
But it's a totally different crime, you know?
Yeah, but maybe because she was awake, the method was different, the manner of, disposing of her. I mean, it totally makes sense then why he would cover the mirrors and cover the bodies if it was his actual family and family friends and whatever.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, I know. But it's frustrating because we're not going to get an answer to that one.
Creepy. So, we're probably not going to Iowa anytime soon.
Did you like that story?
I mean, I hated it, obviously.
Did I tell it well?
But yes, in the best way. Yeah, you did. That was unsettling for me.
So I've got another creepy house story. And this one is, I'm sure you know about this one, the Jean Harlow house in Los Angeles. So
I don't.
Oh, okay. So we're going from tiny little farm in Iowa to Jean Harlow, the actress Jean Harlow, her house in Los Angeles. And again, oh my God, this house is creepy. Okay, so the house, let me just paint you a picture. I'll put it on the socials. It's like, Winter Wonderland, Bavarian architecture in the middle of LA.
Like a chalet.
Yeah, pointed, sort of a little bit like the American Victorian architecture we're talking about, but imagine chalet style with, I'm going to have to post a picture because I can't describe this. Okay, so we're going to move on to the Jean Harlow house, and I'll post on our socials who Jean Harlow was. She was an actress, and she was, famous Hollywood actress, and the story is...
I'm Googling a picture because I want to see the house when you're talking about it.
Yeah, look at the house.
Harlow house.
Up in the Beverly Hills, tucked away, surrounded by trees, just to give you a visual.
See it.
Yeah, so for those who haven't seen it while you're listening, it's tucked away in the Hollywood Hills, very private, secluded, surrounded by trees.
Gonna share my screen.
Yeah.
Is this it? Oh my God, is this not it? Is it this?
Yes, that's the one. Okay. Yeah. That's the one. Yeah.
I don't want to look anymore because I don't want you to, I don't want to give, see, I want you to tell me. Okay.
So, Jean Harlow's husband was Paul Byrne, who was a movie producer. And they got married in 1932. And 2 months later, Paul was found dead in their home in Benedict Canyon in Beverly Hills, which already has a crazy history of murders and suicides.
All the LA cases are always cuckoo bananas, aren't they?
Yeah. So the next person to own the house also suffered an untimely death. So, I find that weird, right? When there's certain houses that just are cursed. And whatever happens to that house, whoever lives there, bad shit happens. So by 1920, 80% of the world's films were made in California due to the all-year good weather and the cheap labor. Until that time, films were filmed in the Northeast. So Paul built the 2-bedroom family house in 1930. And there's also a carriage house for staff, which was close to the street, while the main house was set back, sort of nestled in the trees. So the architecture was spooky, sort of like Tudor Bavarian, beams and lots of wood. Sort of looked a bit like Winter Wonderland fairy tale. Had a turret, but in a dark way. Do you know what I mean? So there were not many photos of the house from the inside, but the decor was perfect for a creepy story. So Jean was the original blonde bombshell. She was born Harleen Harlow Carpenter in 1911 in Kansas, and she used her mother's name as her stage name.
Harleen is a cute name.
I know, it's cute, yeah. But Yeah, so she used her mother's name, Jean Harlow. It's a stage name. So her parents get divorced, and she moves to Hollywood and elopes age 16 with a bond broker, but she gets divorced because she wants to pursue acting. And she works for 2 years as an extra and gets her big break, aged 18, in the movie Hell's Angels. So she signed with Howard Hughes' film company. So she was owned by that company and couldn't work for other studios because that's how it works at the time.
Mm-hmm.
You were kind of owned by the studios, like we saw with Natalie Wood. Owned by the studio, you only do their films. Very
little choice about what films you did. You just did all their choices. They owned your life. You used to have to ask for permission to get married, have a baby. You know, they used to weigh you and make sure you, all of
give
this
you
kind of
meth,
stuff.
like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
What's her name?
Judy Garland.
Yeah.
And not just her, but yes.
So Howard Hughes wasn't giving her any work, so they sold her to MGM for $60,000. So
do you know what it reminds me of? Like football players. Like transfer windows and stuff like that. You know how they're
sold like a commodity. So Paul Byrne, he was the husband. He was born in Germany in 1889, and he was 20 years older than Jean. He moved to the US when he was 9, and he worked his way up at MGM. So the marriage was described as the perfect Hollywood romance. On the 5th of September, 1932, Paul was found naked with a single gunshot to the head and a revolver in his hand, and was found by house staff. So interestingly, the staff called MGM, not the police.
I think that was probably standard at the time. Before you get the police involved, call MGM, call the contract, the movie company, because remember, they all had fixers.
What do you mean fixers?
Fixers. So if you had a problem if you'd done something illegal, if you've got busted for anything, fixers would come in and make it go away. Like Clark Gable supposedly ran someone over. Killed them. Yeah. And that just disappears, you know?
Yeah,
so
true.
I am not surprised by that, because I'm sure that was like
standard
required of them. Yeah.
Damage limitation, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So the staff, they called MGM, not the police. The studio chiefs come to the house, and they're there for like more than 2 hours before calling the police. Can you imagine? Like, they're there's just a dead body. I'd be so worried about not calling the police and they think you've tampered with evidence or that you've done it, you know? So at the time, Jean was at her parents' house since the night before. Theories about why Jean was not there at the time, but she had an alibi for not, at the time that she wasn't there.
Was it weird for her to go visit her parents? That doesn't seem that weird.
I guess not, because they're from Kansas. She's still so young, I mean, who doesn't visit their parents, regardless of their age, hopefully. Jean kept repeating when she found out, "Isn't this awful?" and was very ill for days after the tragedy. So there was a note from Paul that read, "Dearest dear," this was found, "Dearest dear, unfortunately, this is the only way to make good the frightful wrong I have done you and to wipe out my abject humiliation. P.S. You understand that last night was only a comedy." What the fuck for a fucking goodbye note, huh?
And what do we know what he was referring to?
I will continue. So Jean denied that the couple had been fighting, and the police discovered that he was still married to his first wife, Dorothy Millette, at the time. So Paul's sister said they both... Well, I don't know. I always wonder how, because don't they have paperwork? I guess it's harder when things weren't,
standard, like centralized or whatever. Yeah, no, I know. But it's like, so he must have known he was still married.
Yeah, he knew. Yeah. He knew. But it's believed that Jean found out that he was still married. And that's why she had not been staying with him.
Can you imagine you're married and finding out that you're not really, and that you're...
So he had his first wife, who's still married to, Dorothy Millette, and Paul's sister said they both met in Toronto at a theater company, got married, moved to New York, but his wife had a quote-unquote mental breakdown and was sent to a sanitarium.
Ooh.
Yeah. What the fuck's a sanitarium?
It's an asylum.
Oh, okay. So Paul then moved to Hollywood, but continued to support her financially. Dorothy recovered, then moved to a hotel for 10 years. So she lived in a hotel for 10 years.
Oh, but we know that that's more from the Creepy Hotels episode. Lots of people lived in hotels.
Yeah, God, if it was the Cecil Hotel, this was not.
No, well.
Like the Waldorf story. Oh, I shouldn't laugh. So Paul paid for all her hotel bills while she was staying there for 10 years. She then moved to the Plaza in San Francisco, but she checked out September 6th, the day after Paul was found dead.
Okay.
Okay, so then Dorothy, the first wife, boards the Delta King riverboat, which she never got off when it docked the next morning. I know, this story's creepy.
So they think she killed herself?
Well, a week later, on the 14th of September, she was discovered floating in Sacramento River. So it's believed... You think what?
I think she's obviously...
Yeah.
Because, that's her. He's supporting her. I don't know whether there was any emotion. I mean, there will be some emotions, but whether she still had feelings for him or not. But he was definitely supporting her at the very least financially. So that would have been a tough loss.
So it's believed she jumped overboard, being distraught about his death. And it's unclear whether she ever knew about Jean Harlow, the second wife.
Well, would it have been in the papers at this point? Were both of them famous enough for their marriage?
They were, but I don't know how involved with society she was. Having been in the sanitarium and living a secluded life. I don't know.
Yeah,
but it's reported that she didn't know about the marriage. Right. So Jean was working on the film Red Dust, but she only lives until age 26 for another 5 years, and she also died in young in 1937 of uremic poisoning, which is acute kidney failure. So do you know what? These stories creep me out when there's a series of deaths, right? Like Brittany Murphy.
Was that natural? Her death?
Kidney failure.
Yeah, but that could be could have a natural cause, or I think you could be certain types of poisoning. I don't know.
Well, it wasn't reported that it was a suspicious death, at least.
Right.
I don't know. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. Cut that out because I don't know. So apparently she got all her wisdom teeth out around about this time, and this was causing...
When? On the time of her death?
Just before her death, yeah. She had got all her wisdom teeth out at the same time, or around about this time, and this was causing her issues as well. So... when I looked into this, that was sort of mentioned. I don't know if they were
using substances that led to kidney failure,
potentially, or I mean, I don't know if these things are caused by infections, untreated infections. I don't know, but it was brought up in relation to that. So we also
don't know how much of all of this is true. I mean, if the fixers or the MGM studio people were at the house when the husband died,
even the note. I questioned the authenticity of it.
Yeah. We don't know if he actually was found with a gun in his hand.
Exactly. That's the thing. But even the note, it's such a weirdly written suicide note. And I think there would be a lot more apologies. And
to be honest, if the studio execs were the ones that, let's say this is, I have no evidence for this, but if they wrote the note for whatever reason, then Jean Harlow would not have been in a position to question it. She would have been told, don't say it's not his handwriting. Don't say that doesn't sound like him. Don't say he wouldn't have, that all of this is weird bullshit,
Also,
she would have had to
go
in on the plan.
The note is ambiguous, mentioning, last night was just a comedy, it's ambiguous that it could relate to a lot of different things. It's not specific. Yeah. And if you're really apologizing to your wife for finding out that you still had another wife, I think the apologies would come a little heavier than just it's just a little bit of comedy,
especially if you're also killing yourself.
Yeah. So we have 3 tragic deaths and a lot of rumors and theories, but back to Dorothy. There was a theory that Dorothy killed Paul and that Jean knew about Dorothy. I don't know about that.
Dorothy's the first wife, right?
Yeah. I don't know about that. So Jean went on to have a third marriage to a guy called Harold, and this was organized by the studio MGM to avoid scandal. Meanwhile, Paul's autopsy revealed that, you're going to laugh, he had a micro penis, too small to even use sexually. I shouldn't laugh. His autopsy. Why was that relevant? But anyway.
It seems cruel. The guy's dead.
Yeah. And in 1960, a Playboy magazine journalist revealed that MGM murdered Paul and made it look like a suicide to protect Jean's career. Right? I know.
What? So they thought he was holding her back in some capacity. Maybe he was just defending her, you know, encouraging her to stand up for her rights or whatever, which obviously MGM would not have appreciated.
Yeah. So the article got so much attention that the LA police reopened the case.
Ooh, I love when an article or a documentary makes them reopen the case.
But then the journalist said that his article was based on rumors and the investigation was closed. Although his theory kind of rings more true than the others. So the staff claimed that there was another woman's wine glass and bathing suit there at the time. Ooh. And in 1963, so yeah, going back to that, there was a lot of theories. And the thing is, when crime scenes have been tampered with and there are cover-ups, you just never fucking know this, you know, what happened, you know? So, you know, we can surmise, but I think it's too obscure.
Unless someone's going to come out with a confession.
Exactly.
Or someone's going to find their grandfather's diaries and he's written in about it.
Because you know what? MGM being there for 2 hours after they found his body, like plotting, deciding what they're going to say, just, you know,
probably coaching the staff on what they have to say.
Yeah, exactly. Was there really another woman's wine glass and bathing suit there? Or was that part of MGM's story? That's the thing. I think that whole part of the story just means that the answers are just never going to surface, you know?
Was Jean told to be out of the house on that night?
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Because everything from the suicide note to her not being there to, I don't know. There's a lot of, I don't know. There's a lot of things. Yeah. Yeah. There's just a lot of mystery still around that story. So in 1963, the house was sold to celebrity hairstylist Jay Sebring. And he was murdered alongside actress Sharon Tate. They were both brutally murdered by the Manson family in 1969. And Sharon Tate did an interview with Dick Kleiner saying that she had a premonition about her death. One night when Sharon was in the Jean Harlow house, she woke up to find a little man in her room. And then, sorry, she sees a figure tied to the staircase with its throat slashed. It was an apparition, but she thinks it was Paul's ghost. Yeah, so Paul being Jean Harlow's husband, who allegedly killed himself in the house.
By little man, does she mean micro penis?
So Ronald Hale is the current homeowner, and he said that he's never experienced anything paranormal there. His family moved there in 1970s. Another family moved there in 1970 and experienced weird things immediately. And they heard somebody whisper, "Please help me." Can you imagine? If I fucking heard that, I'd run straight out the door.
I'd move.
Straight out the door, yeah. An object struck their bed 3 times. They heard a woman heavily sobbing. They saw a light floating above them in the living room. And both the owners both had the same dream of someone in a bathtub who touches the light switch and gets electrocuted and dies. Both had the same dream. But to explain this, potentially, they did have a faulty light switch that an electrician said was very dangerous. So I think it's like a natural anxiety you could have and potentially have a nightmare about, both of you. So they also reported cold spots in the house and like flickering lights. Again, I don't find that so weird. If it's an old house, old wiring.
No, it's always drafty and...
Yeah. Okay, so my final thoughts are that home murders and unexplained deaths are absolutely fucking terrifying. More than others because we're supposed to be safe at home. And that's why I think, like, I'm fascinated by creepy houses and murder houses because, you know, our twisted fascination with things that scare us. But I think that's what
there's a next level of violation when it happens in someone's sanctuary, their safe space, the place that they're retreating and retiring from the rest of the world. And so that's why I wanted to do this. You know, I wanted to do a murder house episode just because, God, what is scarier than not being safe in your own home? You know, in your own home where you can shut out the world. So that's why these freak me out so much. It's literally like a storyline from our movie, both of them. Yeah, exactly. And like you say, you know, when you get into your sort of anxiety panics and you're like, oh, I'm just never going to leave the house again because, like, you know, you can get murdered and assaulted and hit by a bus. I'll just stay in my home. And then you're like, oh, but then I could break in. I could get electrocuted.
touch wood, I've never had a home burglary, but I don't know how people ever feel safe again, knowing that you're not even safe at home, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, you know what? I did a poll on our socials to ask people how they wanted us to end episodes, whether they just want us to tell them these horrendous stories and just say bye.
Bye. You know, sleep well.
Whether they want, you know, a little palate cleanser in the form of like a fairy tale just to lighten the mood a bit. And 100% voted fairy tale. But they want us to research a whole nother story. So
why did you offer that as an option?
I don't know. What was the alternative?
Anything.
Well, it's not going to happen because researching a fairy tale.
No, it has to now. What do you mean? We have to just tell a fairy tale?
Yeah. All I can think of is the Matchstick Girl, which is not a good one.
Fairy tales are fucking freaky as fuck as well.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
What is wrong with you people?
I don't know, sometimes they don't know what they want, but they don't want that.
Do another poll.
Yeah, I'll do another poll because...
That's why I said ask them if they want a dad joke or something. That's like
yeah. I mean,
you know what I mean?
Fairy tale, if you want me to tell a fairy tale, you're giving me extra homework. But
also, I maintain that's not a palate cleanser because a lot of fairy tales give me fucking nightmares. And we would go for the originals, like the original Little Mermaid who fucking died. And...
Oh, God. Do you know what? Even Roald Dahl, like, Che at the moment is really into George's Marvelous Medicine. And
they're all creepy as fuck, too. They were all about
the grandma,
poisoning.
she's cruel.
Remember the Twits?
Vaguely.
Oh, well, they used to, I remember every time I have pasta, I think of this, every time I have spaghetti, because the wife wanted to get back at the husband, so she made him spaghetti, but it was actually earthworms.
Oh, God. Yeah, I mean, every Roald Dahl book, they are still some of the best ever. But every one of them has got some cruel figure in there, kids being mistreated, so...
All right, this is new plan. End of the episode, we're going to talk about one Roald Dahl book that we like.
Okay.
So let's talk about George's
Are we trying to lose listeners?
What is wrong with us? What is wrong with people?
I don't know. Let's just say bye. Let's just end this here now. Let's go eat our lunch.
Yeah, I need a wee.
And record the next episode.
Do you know when you said about the cold spots in the house, I was like, I'm cold. Yeah. And then I realized, yes, because it's fucking cold here.
I tell you what, though. Do you know what? I have never, and God, maybe I'll be so annoyed at myself for saying this. My future self might get annoyed if ever something happens, but like, I actually feel so safe in this house here. And it is because I've said this before, because it's a new house. 70s house. That's new. Considered modern.
It's new here in the UK. Yeah, for sure.
And although I live on a graveyard, which is literally almost touching distance, it is in that direction, probably like, I don't know, 6 arms length.
Mm-hmm.
10, I don't know. I feel completely safe. Like, I'm often in the middle of the night coming downstairs to get the kids a drink, to get them something, whatever. And, like, I don't. You know that episode we did on urban legends for We Knew the Moon? You know, of her talking about we always have to turn on the lights. Like, I actually don't feel like that in this house, you know?
And it's really weird because as a kid and growing up and... up until possibly you moved into that house, you were scared. Like when we lived in the flats, me and my sister, we used to live.
That place was,
in a block of flats, and I lived on the 5th floor, and you lived on the ground floor, and there was a lift. There were lifts, so it wasn't a stairs issue. But quite often, I would have to escort her down to her flat, or Jim would have to come pick her up, or at the very least meet her at the lift.
The car park was like a scene from a horror story, and
it had like an atrium, so the lift went up in the middle and there was a bit of an atrium and the flats coming off of the balconies. And when I was talking about how creepy child singing is, I remember one time I got in the lift and there was a kid playing in the atrium, but it was dark, but that doesn't mean it was late in the UK.
But it was haunted, that building. It even been documented in books, you know.
Yeah, and that was a building that had been around so long that you couldn't imagine someone not dying in there. And it was a warehouse, and you know, health and safety wasn't so much a thing when it was a warehouse.
It was Victorian. But it's interesting because you know how, like, when you're visiting houses, when you're looking to rent or buy and you're visiting houses, and you walk into some places and they have a good vibe, they have a good feeling. You don't know why that is. And it's nothing to do with decor sometimes, but like you go in,
sometimes it is to do with decor and the lighting and whatever, but sometimes you walk into a place and it's a nice place, but you just do not like sometimes places just, and this isn't to do with the decor, but it just feels
There's a lack of warmth. It's cold. It's sterile. You can never imagine it being cozy. It's a feel. Do you know what I mean? I don't mean to sound woo-woo, but I think homes have a feel. And, yeah, I think homes have a feel. That's all I have
and
to
I
say.
feel like people being murdered in them will definitely affect that vibe.
Yeah, and I don't know what it is that contributes. Like you said, obviously a place that has good lighting. What is the south-facing garden? All these things make a place, more warm and inviting. But I do think ultimately, regardless of decor, positioning, whatever, there is something about certain homes where you walk into some homes, you're like, ooh.
Like, I know this is a hotel, but like when we went to Saffron Walden and we covered this hotel a little bit in the Creepy Hotels episode. But, we walked in and we're like, this place is haunted. And then we found out it was, and it had been on Most Haunted, the TV show and everything. But, we just walked in and we're like, 100%. Yeah. 100% it is.
Yeah. That place had a fucking feel to it. It was the freakiest place, even in the middle of the day. Yeah. I wouldn't want to be alone in any of those rooms. Yeah. Even in the middle of the day.
No, and the thing is, we felt it even when we first walked into the pub, because it was a pub. Mm-hmm. But, we live in England. Like, lots of pubs have that look and that feel. So it wasn't just because it was like a traditional looking pub with beams and wood paneling and blah, blah, blah. We walk into loads of pubs like that, or have done in our lifetime, because, like, so many pubs here in England are quaint and whatever. But you don't always walk in and go, ooh, bad vibe. Whereas kind of did there, didn't we?
Yeah. So that's the story of the day. Did you like my little detour into creepiness?
Oh, I loved it. And true homage to We Knew the Moon. Check out some of those episodes.
Yes, they're good.
If you're looking for
Creepy
something
houses
between...
and creepy hotels.
Yeah. If you're looking for any fillers in between. And special shout out to Wine Time. We love our girls at Wine Time.
Oh, Wine Time. Oh.
Yeah, if you're looking for something to listen to in between our episodes, because ops were your favorites, then check out Wine Time. We love them.
Yeah. Nice ladies.
No, lovely ladies. All right,
so
well,
we're going to be back next week.
Bye.
Mwah. Hey there. Thanks for being a loyal listener.
Do you need a new website or want to boost your social media performance? Or do you hate podcast editing? You've tried optimizing your website and social media channels, but you're still not getting the listeners, downloads, and engagement you want?
We, the Safier sisters, love helping people with tasks that they hate. We know a thing or two about podcasts, websites, and social media, and we love working with other podcasters and business owners.
So why not head over to switchbladesisterssocialclub.com and go to our Work With Us section. We believe in collaboration over competition. A rising tide raises all ships.
Bye!